So I will go ahead and get started. So again, everybody, welcome. Welcome to Paladin Data Corporation's webinars. It's free advanced training, interactive. I'm here today to talk about the pitfalls of rebel ordering. There is a better way. The description says, harness the power of Paladin's market-driven inventory management to enable you to avoid common mistakes of ordering, improving customer satisfaction, and making more money. The old age conundrum of retailing is either having too much inventory or not enough. This webinar will teach you how Paladin's suggested ordering will help to, 1, determine the optimal stocking levels, which is important, eliminate stock that isn't selling, non-performing assets, reduce your inventory investment, improve customer satisfaction, of course, is the ultimate goal, and streamline ordering, giving you more time to spend with your customers and just overall helping you make more money. Again, if I haven't already done introductions, my name is Charles Owen. I have Paladin about 10 years. And let's go ahead and get started with the presentation. I'll go ahead and put it in presentation mode here. Advance to the first slide. We are on the agenda. So the first thing I want to talk about, what's important here is what is the recipe for success in retail? I kind of like to get back to basics because, you know, there's a whole reason for the market-driven inventory management and suggested ordering and letting, you know, the technology do some of the heavy lifting for you. But at the same time, we can't forget the whole reason, the whole premise, the reason why we want to do this. We'll also get into examples of rebel ordering. Oh, exciting topic. Results of rebel ordering aren't so good. Market-driven inventory management, we'll get into actual specifics, and then suggested ordering best practices, and then also a learn more, where there's all kinds of advanced material for you to learn from. I'll just tell you, this is going to be a really quick webinar. This is kind of just a taste to kind of get you in the get you excited about market-driven inventory management, get you excited about using the technology the way it was designed so you can build and grow your business using Paladin. Moving to the next slide here, we've got a recipe for success, retail recipe for success. Number 1, build relationships with your customers, right? That's what it's all about in the end. That's how you drive product sales. You build those relationships with customers, and you focus on selling. If you put the focus on buying, you might be able to get a couple bucks off here and there of product and, you know, buy it for a little lower price. But if it just sits on your shelf and doesn't move and doesn't turn, that's a problem. So we try to help you put that focus back on the selling side. We do the heavy lifting on the technology side and the back end, so you don't have to focus on that. Next, be open to new ideas and nurture creativity. So this is a very fast-moving industry. Retail has made a significant evolutional changes in the last decade or so, mainly the internet and Amazon and that sort of thing. But there are also other influences that are going to, that you're going to have to come up with some new ideas to combat. That's what it's all about. Learning to evolve and adapt with the environment. So you want to be able to compete with those big box stores in your area. You want to compete with your competition, compete with the Amazons and the fact that people don't have to put on a pair of pants to go to the store anymore. They can just do it right from their own room, office, or home. Another one is lead your employees by example. So this is important because I believe that the way that you treat your employees is the way your employees will treat your customers. And they also kind of have this monkey see, monkey do complex, right, where they're looking and watching how you react and respond to your customers' needs and requirements. And they kind of take that as a lead to how they're going to treat the customers as well. So I think it's very key to it all goes with helping to build those relationships and nurture those relationships with your customers and your employees as well. Oftentimes we put the lowest paid resource on the front lines, and that to me is kind of a risky proposition. So you've got to properly train them, and you've got to lead them by example. Next, automate your inventory control and ordering process. Why? So you can focus on all the above. So you can build the relationships, focus on selling, be open to new ideas and new projects to help build your business, nurture creativity, learn to evolve and adapt, and also lead and train your employees by example. So that is the basic, getting back to basics, Retail 101 recipe for success. All right, what are some of the examples of rebel ordering? What is rebel ordering? Rebel ordering is just pretty much doing ordering the old-fashioned way, which is, it's worked for decades and centuries, but now there's a better way. So rebel ordering, I believe, is the equivalent of emotional ordering. So when you take the human element out of the equation, it's going to help you look at exactly what you're going to need to fulfill a demand versus just going off the cuff, walking around looking for items. When you find an item that's out, you'll want to order it. You might want to order a ton of it, and when you do that, you get overstock, right? So the two big issues are not enough stock or too much stock. So rebel ordering, you want to try to get away from. What's another way to rebel order? Well, walking the store with a notepad and a pencil and shooting for outs, right? That's exactly what we're talking about here. That's what the guy in the picture is doing. He's walking around, he's checking his paint inventory, he's got his pens, got his paper, writing down what he needs to order. And again, there is a better way. This is very time consuming. Sometimes we get into time constraints before order time, and you may not even get your supplier order in. You can't get it in because you're rushed and you're busy and you're talking to customers and you're out on the floor, but you're not putting the focus in the right areas necessarily if you're walking around with a pen and a paper. So another way is using a Telzon unit and then uploading those orders to your supplier. All these have the same thing in common, and that is you're out doing the ordering yourself. Now, I know that we're probably, all of us are smarter than computers, and we probably have more of in our brain of historical sales and what sells, what doesn't sell, and this, that, and the other. But let's be realistic. At what cost? You might spend 12 hours a day, 3 days leading up to your order, because you just have an enormous responsibility to go and check all the items that you're going to run out of. And if you're ordering by shooting for outs, you've already lost the customer. If you don't have items in your store, the customer may have already come in, saw that item wasn't there, and left your store with an empty cart. It's not a good day. So rushed ordering, impulse ordering, all of that leads to overstock and not having enough stock in place to fulfill your customer's demand, and that is a problem. All right, so what are some of the results of rebel ordering? Very quickly. So number one, it can negatively impact your life, your quality of life. Why? Because you're spending more time in the store. First and foremost, that's important. But you're spending time in the store, and you're not, if you're rebel ordering, you're not putting the focus in the area that it should be, and that is taking care of your customers. So what happens when you're shooting for outs? Frequently out of stock products, frequently out of stock on products that sell. That is one of the results of rebel ordering. Risk of losing customers to the competition, and at best the customers get frustrated. And we've all done this. We've all gone into a store, we've needed a part, or we've needed a component of some sort. We go there and it's an empty bin or the empty shelf, or there's nothing on the peg. And that's a frustrating time. It only takes one or two of those events before you're not the number one first stop on their shopping list. And it's important to make sure that we have the products on the shelf All right, so abundance of overstock items. So opposite of not enough products, too much. So ties your money up in non-performing assets sitting on your shelf. That's not a good thing. I tell you, all the big box stores and the Costco's and Walmarts of the world, they're looking at their GMROI for every square inch of their shelves, making sure that they get a return on investment. If not, they're going to replenish that product or replace that product rather with a product that does sell. And you've got to look at this as a business. It's the same way. Now it's challenging because you have a lot of products that are in projects that you have to have one product sold with the other, or you have a display of some sort where maybe 10 of the items sell and 50 of the other items that are in that same display don't sell at all. That's okay. Just the cost of doing business. You've got to have that. But you want to limit that sort of thing and get back that money that's sitting on your shelf. So have a clear out all those items that are sitting on the shelf that aren't moving, and put something there that will sell. By doing this, by clearing out your overstock, you're going to have you're just going to put money back in your pocket. What you choose to do with that money, are you going to reinvest it in the store? Probably. Maybe in a new line, maybe in expanding that store, getting some additional shelving, whatever it might be. Some of the other results, workflow inefficiencies, obviously, we've discussed this. You're just spending your time in areas where you shouldn't be. And then missing the order submittal cutoff time altogether. I see this happen. You get caught up when you're ordering, and if you're not using technology to help you and assist you, you're either going to put in an order that's partial or none at all. And I've seen that happen as well. So let's jump to the next screen, which is our last screen, I believe, or second to last screen, market-driven inventory management. So what does it do? What does Paladin in particular do for you using our market-driven inventory management and suggested ordering system? Balances out the products, the outs and the overstock. So it brings the outs, it reduces the outs and brings your levels up on those products that sell, and reduces your overstock on those non-performing assets. Also accommodates optimal stocking levels, right? So that's what we do, is we look at a projection. All you tell Paladin is how much depth do you want in your product, and we figure it out. We look at the historical sales, that pattern of sales. We look at we run it through the algorithms, and we determine the optimal stocking level. So, there's a gentleman that came up to us at one of the trade shows, came up to our owner, Dan Nesmith, and asked him, Dan asked him, how do you like our system? You've had it a year. And he goes, oh, man, I hate your ordering. And Dan said, well, can you explain? He said, yeah, I barely have enough stock to fulfill my demand. And Dan kind of looked at him and said, hey, do you mean you're running out of stock? Are you ever having that problem? He goes, oh, no, but I just barely have enough. And Dan said, thank you. That's the best compliment anybody can give me. Now, you have adjustments in the system. We've had people that, just like that example, where we're able to tweak it, and you can bump it up, and you can have more stock than the demand. That's okay. But the fact of the matter is, we have a solution that's going to zero in on exactly what your demand is going to be and make the best guess, analytical prediction, and forecast of what you're going to need. Reduces ordering time. So now we have a lot of folks that say, hey, I come in an hour before my order's due. I run the report, make a couple of tweaks here and there, and boom, my order's sent off. And it's perfect every time. That's wonderful. That's where you want to get to. It also puts money back in your pocket because that overstock is coming down. If you've got an extra $100,000 tied up in your inventory, what would you do with that money? Also, enhances the consumer experience. That is the bottom line. Again, you want to get more customers in your store more often, spending more money, right? Upselling, working them, supporting them any way you can, and keep them coming back to the store. Those are all the reasons and the purposes to move to the market-driven inventory management system. I'm curious to know, out of all of you that are attending, and there's quite a few, of how many of you are actually using suggested ordering today. Now, if any of you want to speak, You can raise your hand. I see there's a couple of hands up right now, but if you wanted to take your hand down and if you want to raise your hand, I would be more than happy to unmute you and you can share with us your experience on inventory management. We can do that. I don't see any hands at this point, but we'll move to the next slide. And let's go over this. And what we'll do is we'll come back to that and we'll open it up for a conversation. Again, if anybody wants to speak to this, I think we're going to have maybe some questions as well as some testaments to the accuracy. So let's look at the suggested ordering best practices. So this differs for everybody, right? I've just come up with, based on a few years of talking with people and seeing how they run the report, what a lot of folks do is they run the suggested order report for the desired stocking days, right? And you can play with that too. You can say, well, my 14-day that I normally run it for is too much. And we're not going to be able to, that's not in the budget this week. Okay, we'll tone it down, bring it from 14 days to 10 days. Let's bring that down a little bit. So you're at least going to have enough to have a week of stock on your shelf, but maybe you want to limit it. So you can play with that desired stocking day. Next, sort the report by extended cost in descending order. Why? Well, it just floats all the high ticket items to the top. That's important for a lot of people that don't have a lot of time to go through every single 500 line items on their PO, but they want to make sure that those high ticket items are addressed. There might be anomalies, there might be mistakes, there might be you just don't have the room to support what it's telling you that your demand is going to fulfill. So the next one is review the suggested order report for accuracy. So you're going to look at it, you're going to look for anomalies. What I normally do in anomalies is I look at the historical sales, so the 1 through 13 4-week periods, and I look for consistency and inconsistency. And if I see 2 sold this 4-week period, 1 sold this 4-week period, 3 sold this 4-week period, and then 100 sold this 4-week period, that's an anomaly. There's something going on with that. Well, what happened? Well, there was a special order of 100. Well, normally if you're using special orders the way that it was designed today, it will never, ever add that to the equation. And it will lock out that special order quantity from the algorithms that it uses to determine the stocking forecast. All right, next, you're looking for anomalies both in those 4 weeks and also in the high ticket items. You might have something come up to the top says it's $20,000. You're going, wait, hold off, what is this? So look for those types of things, and the first couple of pages will probably do it for you, because again, we're looking at those high ticket items that's going to make the biggest difference to affect the purchase order quantities. Next, if you do have special orders that you've done in the past before you've used special orders, or maybe the way that you use special orders, it's not being affected the way it should be, you can lock maximum quantity at 0. Anytime you lock maximum quantity at 0, that prohibits that item from being calculated as part of that algorithm. So it's a very effective way. Now, when items are discontinued through EDI, electronic data interchange, from your supplier, they lock the other one to the left, which is the minimum quantity. Not min quantity, but minimum order quantity. And if the minimum order quantity is locked at 0, that usually has come down through a discontinued automatically through EDI. But if you lock the max quantity at 0, that's going to do the same exact thing. It'll just prevent it from showing up on the report. So when you do this a few times, you'll rerun the suggested order report again. Now, over time, you're going to do this, and it's not going to be required to make these changes. You're not going to, yes, you still want to look for anomalies. Yes, you want to take a look at those big ticket items. But over time, what you can do is, rather than making changes in the inventory, you can just wait till you generate the PO and then make a small change on the PO. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring that suggested order down to a normal volume. When you first start running suggested ordering, you might get an enormous amount of items it's looking to order, and there are several ways to adjust that. But over time, weeks, months, you get it to where it's spot on. All right, continue on with best practices. create a purchase order from the suggested order report. Now you can make minor adjustments to that PO as needed before you send it off. It's nice about the PO, if you do sort it by extended cost and descending, floats all the high dollar items to the top and the low dollar items to the bottom. So on those high dollar items, make the adjustments accordingly. It's going to have a huge impact on your bottom line when you're sending the order. But conversely, at the bottom, if you've got some items that you say, you know what, I don't want to order the minimums, I want to order a few more of these smaller items because I don't want to put them away every week, there's your opportunity to do that as well. So that's kind of the best practices for just suggested ordering. It's, again, there are different ways to do it, and I'm sure all of you have your own way. The next slide here that we're going to look at is a learn more. We've got all kinds of material on running suggested orderings, on managing your inventory, starting with about suggested order reports. There's a number of articles, how-to articles, as well as news articles and webinars. How to create suggested order reports. Also, we've got webinars, best practices using suggested ordering, and then suggested order better than a magic 8-ball. So these are just some of the resources you have. I don't see any questions. So either I'm looking in the wrong place. We have a lot of attendees here. I'm surprised no questions, but I'll give you another minute to answer any questions. And then at the same time, I will tell you that we are having another webinar. And that webinar, I believe, let me bring it up here. I believe it is on April 23rd. It's transaction audits. That's the efficiently recalling sales data. So historical sales data is very important, and we retain it in the system, and you should be able to go out and retrieve it, and we allow you to do that. All right, well, I don't see any questions, folks. Hopefully you're hearing me, you're seeing me, and you're seeing the slides, and everything worked out for you in this webinar. And if you want to see it in the future, or if you got sidetracked during this and you had to help a customer, you can always rewatch it again. It'll be posted on the Paladin website at portal.paladinpos.com/webinars, and it'll be at the top of the list. It'll probably be posted in the next 24 to 48 hours, I would imagine. I do see a couple of questions coming in. Should we be locking the min and max fields ever? Well, that's a controversial question right there. The answer to that is, I think everybody has opinions on that. And if you come from old school, you've got one of our competitive systems that you've done a tremendous amount of tweaking on minimum reorder points and maximum, you probably feel compelled to do this. Don't. You may lock the minimum. I would never lock the maximum. But there might be an occasion if you have a product that's $1,500 and you don't want to have more than 2, you can do that. But on a general practice, minimums and maximums shouldn't be touched. However, there's a caveat with that. I am a proponent personally, and not everybody shares this philosophy with me, but there are some project items, and I only know this because it emotionally happened to me one time. I went into a store to buy a 3/4 inch elbow, schedule 40, and I needed to do a sprinkler job for my own personal house. I needed like 27. There were 3 in the bin. I was very upset, walked out. Now, if there are low-cost items in plumbing and electrical that you want to be able to fulfill the demand, that's maybe twice a year you get people coming in buying 30 or 50 of them, and it's no sweat off your back because they're 14-cent items, order them, lock them in, put in a minimum. Just remember, minimum is not the reorder point. I stress that. It is what I call the new zero. It becomes part of the display. So the system will still calculate out the minimum or the suggested amount above and beyond that minimum that you put in there. So just imagine if you put 30 and lock that in for the 3/4 inch elbows, you're going to have 30 plus whatever the system thinks you're going to need for that time period. All right. Next, can we get a copy of the presentation? Always, yes. The copy of the presentation will be on the webinar. You'll see there's an option to watch it and an option for the slides. It's in a PDF form, and you have that on all the webinars that we do. You can go back and access this information. So with that, folks, I will be signing off here. Again, thank you very much for your time today. I know you're busy, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you. There's a lot more detail in this stuff, right? And that can be found in these articles, as well as the news articles and webinars that I've listed up here on the Learn More. So again, thank you all. We're going to sign off for today. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully we'll see you next time.